I was kind of always the black sheep, honestly, of our family. I always was the one who kind of pushed the envelope, just treaded outside those borders enough to like feel like I was free enough, but not, always. I gave my parents a hard time. I mean, my mom particularly, she's a single mom, and I really pushed the envelope. I mean, I was challenging growing up, because I didn't want to fit sort of in this norm, right? I was always like, but I don't want to do that. And I don't want to be this way, right? So it is it's challenging from a parental perspective. And I think we've always had a challenged relationship, honestly, because I've been sort of a harder to raise kiddo. But I was always very self-sufficient. I was super self-motivated. I made my own money. She never had to tell me to go to work or, I dug graves in the summer, one summer, because I was like, hey, this is a great job. No one's doing it. And I'm not going to lose my job. People die every day. I was outside of the box in terms of what I was willing to do for success.
Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with Julie Roy, a new friend, who's an entrepreneur. I'd almost say serial entrepreneur, now a real estate investor. Man, I mean, that doesn't do you any justice from what I've just learned about you, Julie. Thank you so much for coming in today. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We obviously are super excited to be here and want to learn more about your community and just hopefully we can add value and help.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we're going to be able to. Where are you beaming in from right now?
So currently Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
We're actually originally Canadians, moved here for our second business opportunity in 2019, moved our family. So now we're in the middle of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
We didn't even know where we were moving to. We thought it was Oklahoma for the first 6 months. So that was kind of a funny thing that we chatted about for the longest time. My husband would tell everyone we have businesses in Oklahoma and I'm like, nope, it's Omaha, but we're close. So so that's where we're beaming in from today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, in our pre-recorded conversation, you were talking about some of the different exiting that you've done through some various businesses. We connected through my wife in childcare centers, which you are now exited out of. And I'm curious to learn about some of the different tools and different thinking that you've had in doing that, because not every business owner, I think everybody dreams about exiting on a certain level, but there's some real practicalities to doing that. And as we kind of build that up, I just wanted to have that as a tease, but I want to drop back first, Julie. And where did you grow up?
Yeah, so interesting enough, I grew up in Canada in a small city we call it south of Detroit, which is Windsor, Ontario. So
right on.
Small little town. Parents were both immigrants from Italy. My grandparents were the first kind of people to bring their siblings over and all of that stuff. So we grew up in a really modest sort of middle to lower income home and area. A real just hardworking, lots of work ethic around our family base. My parents were divorced, so I came from a single mom, really, most of my life. And so work was not an option. Even from a young age, 9 and 10, I was babysitting other folks' kids in the neighborhood and just trying to make some cash and working at the market, Every Saturday, 5 a.m., I'd take my bike down there. I was probably like 12. My mom worked 2 and sometimes 3 jobs. So it was just my brother and I. So latchkey kids, literally with a key around our neck, So really just modest beginnings. Hardworking, loving, caring beginnings, but definitely modest. Yeah.
Yes. how did the adventure unfold? Where did we end up moving from there? Did you go into traditional schooling as far as college? And
Crazy story. I was always seeing this. So my parents had a hardware store, if we back up a little bit.
Okay.
And so during the recession, they were with another family and they had lost everything, right? And so, but before that, since I was, real young, I was always working at the counter, at the cash register, talking to the people. And I always thought, man, I just always want to own my own place, right? Because it was this entrepreneurial kind of vibe that I think my parents had. Genetically, I think there's definitely an entrepreneurial vibe. But yeah, so I would say I always had this idea of, doing more, doing better, getting out of the situation that we were in or what have you. So went to graduated high school, was the first, the one, I guess, in our family to actually attend post-secondary education. I was the only one that went to university. And so I'm Italian, so you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. That's sort of what you're going to be. Because if we're going to spend money for school, it's going to be a return on investment for your family. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. So, so I went into school to be a lawyer. And hated it. Absolutely was not my jam. I'm super ADHD and energetic and crazy, and reading like articles was literally just not my jam. So long story short, I had always been working in a Montessori preschool during my college career, before and after school, and just doing the assistant positions. And I've loved children from day one, right? So I've babysat. Like, it was a course of just being kind of like, writing all the notes, being the little teacher, acting out stuff when I was a kiddo. So super passionate about learning, I think, always, right? And I am an avid learner myself. So took kind of a turn, went to play soccer in Europe for my first and second year university, came home and was like, I'm done with this law school stuff. I'm done with being a lawyer. Like, I don't care if I'm disowned. I need to change my course. So I ended up actually going in, finishing my degree in social psych, because that's what I had started in, and then went into Montessori preschool, got all my training. So infant, toddler, preschool level, and early elementary, which was a really big gamut of things. Went over to the States to do that. So then, got into education from that. But It was a turn of events for sure.
Yeah.
Not many people happy about me being a teacher initially, so.
Yeah, I would imagine that's a little bit non-conforming. And how did family receive that? And
not really well. My mom was not happy. I remember she was kind of like, I think she wanted me to do whatever my heart desired, but I feel like she didn't, in the back of my mind, they didn't want us to struggle, right? And so it was like, how can you get there? How can you be better than what we had, right? We always want more for our kids than what we've got.
Sure.
So I think in the back of her mind, she was like, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to struggle. Teachers don't make a lot of money. I mean, yes, it's a great passion, but how are you going to live? Like, I've had to work 2 and 3 jobs, right? There's a lot behind that. So, so when she first came to my Montessori school in the basement of the church, she was like, oh my gosh, these kids are like learning and they're so well behaved. And she thought she was going to come to like a mass chaos babysitting, course. And so I think that sort of changed her mind. And then as we grew, she actually became the main accountant in our business and worked with us. So, had a fairly lucrative career from it as well. But definitely it was a process, to get them on board for sure. Yeah. And my family helped us through everything, made cubbies. My family was very, my dad, my grandpa was very hands-on. So did a lot for the schools for us to get to where we
love it.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommar Garage Door Openers. We believe Sommars are the best in the business when it comes to garage door openers. We always recommend them for residential installs because of the many features they have, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features like a fixed chain that runs along a secure rail for a quiet and safe operation. Click the link to find out more about Sommar Garage Door Openers.
So, real quick, I want to dive in one more time on this and then extract a piece and then we can move on here. But, the component of like going against the grain of family expectations, right?
Yeah.
And for certain family cultures, it's a big deal. And it resonates with me. This is why I'm picking up on it, because,
Yeah.
my mom wanted me to have the comfy job, the benefits and the whole thing. And when I got that, I couldn't stand it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just suffocating me.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective and that experience, Julie, at what point did you know, and you just knew you had to kind of break the mold? And was there anything or pieces specific that helped make that happen so that you would stay true to yourself and honor the relationship stories of those before you?
Yeah, I would say that I was kind of always the black sheep. Honestly, of our family, I always was the one who kind of pushed the envelope, just treaded outside those borders enough to like feel like I was free enough, but not, always. I gave my parents a hard time. I mean, my mom particularly, she's a single mom, and I really pushed the envelope. I mean, I was challenging growing up, because I didn't want to fit sort of in this norm, right? I was always like, but I don't want to do that. And I don't want to be this way, right? So it is it's challenging from a parental perspective. And I think we've always had a challenged relationship, honestly, because I've been sort of a harder to raise kiddo. But I was always very self-sufficient. I was super self-motivated. I made my own money. She never had to tell me to go to work or, I dug graves in the summer, one summer, because I was like, hey, this is a great job. No one's doing it. And I'm not going to lose my job. People die every day. I was outside of the box in terms of what I was willing to do for success. And I think that in general is and is still my motivating factor. Like, everything is figure outable. I say that every day, and success is not an option. And from day one, that was really sort of my mindset. And people that know me still today, they'll say everything's figure outable, right, Julie? Like, every time they talk to me, because it's true. I really do believe that if there's a will, there's a way. And I know that's just a saying that's out there, but I truly take that to heart. Like, if you want it bad enough, you figure it out. And so for me, we started the schools with a loan, a $25,000 loan from a guy named Malcolm Banks. It was a 19% loan. It was in the back alley behind McDonald's in Windsor, Ontario, south of Detroit. I found the ad in a newspaper. I know, you can laugh. It's crazy. Gosh. It's literal crazy shit. So we found this ad in the newspaper, and it said, willing to give money for loans for new business. And I was like, okay, this is it. We're going. And so Bo, who's my husband now, was my boyfriend. And I was like, you need to come. I don't have anything. I just got back from Europe. I have no money. Like, I have nothing to put this against. Like, we're going to probably need two of us. So he comes, and the guy looks at Bo. We're signing the papers, and he's like, I hope you love this girl, because if you guys don't pay for this, like, he's going to die. I was like, okay, everything's figure outable, and success is not an option, right? I mean, and so that's where it started. And literally, every time I have dedicated myself to something, I have those words in the back of my mind. Like, Julie, you can do this. You can do hard things. It doesn't matter what people around you say. You have to have if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. That's 100%. So when you're saying, how do you break free from that norm? One, I think you believe in yourself, right? If you truly believe, if you know you have it in you, you do. You probably do. Not everybody has an interest in being an entrepreneur. Right? Not everybody goes out there and is like, hey, I can manage risk, and I'm okay with putting my life on the line and all the things, right? So if you have it in you and you really truly feel like you have good work ethic, you have good habits for success, your mindset is in place, it's huge. Mindset is number one in any type of business. I mean, belief in yourself, the mindset that you can do it, the can-do attitude, like, hey, we're going to figure this out. Everything's figure outable. Success isn't an option. Like, this is stuff I say every morning. Like, I have gratitude practice. I do the same thing every day. I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. I eat the same foods. I work out the same way. Like, it's a whole process, right? It's a whole body and mind process.
Yes.
So going against the grain is just something I think, and I have done.
Mm-hmm. There's so much in that we can unpack on different levels. But I want to go back. So you took out this loan. You started the Montessori school at a basement.
Yeah, amateur. Huh?
and built this up to then exit.
Yeah. So we started with this. Yeah.
I guess my real question, because I do want to hear this story, but I also want to drive towards like when you started, when you were taking that loan in the alley. I love that story.
Yeah.
Did you have the end already in mind?
Oh, 100%. And actually, I'm writing a book right now that the title is Begin with the End in Mind. 100%. We have 2 books out right now. One is just a real estate investing book, which is pretty simple, just like how to get into real estate. And the second one is like Begin with the End in Mind, because all of the stuff I'm telling you was all part and parcel of starting with this dream goal, this vision board I had in my head, which at the time, no one was doing vision boards 20 years ago, right? It was just like, here's how I want to live. Here's how I don't want to live. Here's what I need to do to get there. I didn't know the exact pathways, right? I mean, I had never had a business. I didn't know the exact pathway. I didn't know that I needed other people to get me there. I didn't know all the lessons that I learned.
Yes.
The other thing is we never say anything has been a failure, because the only time a failure happens is if you quit. We've never quit. So failures only happen if you quit. We call failures instead in our home lessons. And as long as you've learned by them and you've learned from them, then it's a lesson, not a failure. And so why I'm saying that is because, you can have that end in mind and it may look like a straight path, but most of the time it's all over the map to get to that end, right? And so, but as long as that end is your goal and you continue to focus on that end goal, you get there, right? Like in real estate, same thing. I mean, in every business we've had, because we have really been serial, entrepreneurs. I feel like monogamous serial entrepreneurs, because it's been sort of one thing at a time, but very many different things that, in succession that came from sort of that first business. So, so I think that the big piece is that you do need to have that end goal in mind, because without that, it's really challenging for you to see where you want to get to, and having that goal was for me my focus and my driver. So I think that's important. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so here's a little bit deeper question, and it's also a personal question in a lot of ways, because there's some alignment. I understand big picture goal, and there are some personality traits. Some people don't even have that. They want tasks, but there's like 50% that does have the big picture goal. We put the goal out there. We start taking steps. We know we're going against the grain of not just family, but a lot of society, like big risks. Hold on, like be careful. And yet we're holding on to this goal while we're getting all these quote unquote failures lessons.
Yes.
How do you maintain the self-awareness and that self-confidence to stay on that path while taking the hits, while going through brick walls, while ...
Like regardless, right? So I think, again, my goal, my vision, mission, my values are so strong that like there's nothing that's going to shake that for me, right? So for me, risk is a huge part of return. Every day, we analyze what we do and how we do it via analyzing what we call our risk is our return of life. Okay, we don't talk about return on investment; it's return on life. So, like, that. Is this risk going to create a return on life for us that is superior to where we're at now, or is it going to create a return on life on others? With whatever we do. And so I feel like switching the return on investment idea to return on life idea has helped us stay focused on end goals for many reasons, right? Yes. For example, we have an end goal of doing all the continents with our children. Part of that is being successful in business in order to do that. So life goals are also parallel to these goals that we have in business. And so return on life for us became just a philosophy in our household. Like, hey, is that a return on life for you? We talk about it with our kids too. Like they'll say, well, I want to do this or that. Okay, so what would be the return on life for you? And then they start to think about, okay, well, let's put, what we feel like positives are with this, what we feel like, negatives are with this. And is this going to get us, every decision we make is, are you getting closer to that end goal, that end in mind, right? Is this going to bring you closer to that? And if not, then you have to say no to things too in life, right? And so I think that's where people get mixed up in terms of like their mindset and where they're going, because I think they get clouded by shiny object syndrome. It's really hard not to, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? Oh, I can do this and I can do this. But what is that end goal? And is what you're doing, is that decision going to take you closer to that? And is it going to give you a return on life? And I think that's what you have to always analyze, because there are a lot of options for folks today, a lot of avenues, virtually that are distractions too. So eliminating distractions is a whole other conversation for another day. But
there's certainly plenty of
so
noise
much in every answer,
Yeah. There's certainly so much noise going on, and so I guess to unpack that a little bit and put it into some bullet points, what I'm hearing is define an end goal and have a burning desire for that end goal. And then also have enough self-awareness to know who you are, values, mission, right? Vision. And then that vision component is this integrated piece. And that's where we can go through things and establish this mindset that is so bulletproof.
Yeah. And I think too, like, Matt, we have to talk about small, consistent steps, right? Like consistency is key. And a lot of people are like, boom, splurge, huge lightning, impact, downtime, huge, like lightning impact, downtime. And so we've just been sort of like steady, increasing, slow, consistent gains. Like I said, I'm consistent in everything in my life, honestly. The way I parent, the way our relationship, like Bo and I's relationship is, the communication is hopefully consistent, I think, as much as possible. Some days are better than others with the kids. But, the way we do business, integrity, everything we do is fueled by integrity, and a kind heart, obviously, and a generous heart is our hope. But I think consistency is key, in a relationship, in a business, in getting to the end goal. The consistency piece for us has been, I would say, one of the biggest drivers. Small, consistent steps. Rather than like big blasts of nothing and then, or big blasts and then nothing, I guess. We're not a peaks and valley kind of approach. We are a much more like, let's get this hike going and like, here's the summit, right? This is the summit we're looking at.
I love that. Yeah, doing the reps. Daily reps.
Yeah. Like, they say you go to the gym, the first 6 weeks you see nothing, then
that's right.
Pops a little,
that's right.
Pops a little bicep after 90 days. And then,
Yes.
But so I feel like that's really been our philosophy.
Yeah. The word that pops up to me is, really the skill of patience.
And I'm not patient. It's hard. It's really hard.
It is hard.
Really hard. And as an entrepreneur, it's really, really hard. Because you have a lot of people on the line, right? You have families that rely on you. You have employees that rely on you. At one time, I had 386 employees. I mean, it's no joke, right? And during COVID, when everything was a disaster in terms of life and business. And so tenacity, grit, like these are words that come to my mind when I think about successful entrepreneurs that we know and that we model and mentor or off of, I guess. Tenacity, grit. I don't know if patience is my best indicator, but I need to see gains every day. And so I think more than patience, progress for me is so important. Like, are we moving forward? Are we moving towards the goal? Where are we today? Are we better than yesterday? Personally, professionally, business. Yeah.
So that skill is then to see the 1% gains, because we're not having big jumps every day. It's like
sometimes you do, right? Sometimes you get
sometimes
those,
you do. Absolutely.
But mainly,
love those days.
You're not, right? Most days you're trekking a slower path. But, they always say, there's a saying that kind of always, I mean, it's in my office too, but it's something like, entrepreneurs are willing to do 99% or are willing to work sort of like 99% more than the 1% to get to where the 1% will never get to, right? And that's sort of like what it is. I mean, success isn't an option. Everything's figure outable, but at the end of the day, you're wanting it so bad that's just the driver, right? Like you are so committed internally, all around you, the people we associate with, right? Like we're not just talking about business gains, but progress for us too means life progress. Like we've lost friends, family members. We've had to say no to people. We've had to say goodbye to people who create negative and cyclical, destruction for us. And we've just had to move into places where we've just associated with better people, for ourselves and our children. And so I feel like when you're saying those gains, are slow or, that they're 1%, it's been not only just in business, I feel like in life as well. We've had to make some really hard decisions to get those gains.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I get that. So you've had some exits. You're now in real estate holdings, enjoying, the quote unquote passive. I think that's a loose term in some ways.
Yeah, we can talk about that too.
Yeah. you have another level, I guess, as far as where you're playing, and what are we excited for? What's kind of out in front of you now?
Yeah, so we obviously scaled the businesses, sold to some private equity, and then had a really calculated exit, right? And again, with the end in mind. So we, with every exit, thought, okay, well, how can we replace what we're doing now with this exit, and where can this get us to in terms of like next level for the next piece of our life? And so part of it was taking the end and breaking it backwards and breaking it down. So like, what do we need to live every month on without active income? So really calculating the moving backwards piece, which a lot of people don't do. They just exit and are like, okay, now what do we do, right? Like, and then they don't have anything set up. They have no passive income coming in. They're just going through this pot of money. Like it's a deduction every day. Like if you're not investing your money, like if any wealthy people, they don't save. No, wealthy people don't save their money. They invest their money. And so that as well, coming from where we came from, there was a huge shift in my mindset that we had to do in terms of money, in terms of my trauma background philosophy of money, right? And so through this process, we've had to figure out that your abundance mindset has to come into play. We were brought up in a real scarcity mindset about money. And so that had a big change for us, and also trying to educate our family, friends, etc. around us about it. And some came on board and some are just not, and they're still where they were, and that's okay. And not everyone's always going to be interested and available to your information, right?
Yep.
But for us, a big piece of this is creating abundance for others now, right? As well. And so I've always been a teacher. I always loved the passion of education. I'm still educating people. We have a Facebook group called Roy Real Estate Holdings, an equity group where every day I post something about moving forward, whether it's financially, personally, just how to get there, right? And try to help others. We are doing syndications now that we never thought we would do. We got into real estate initially for passive income, obviously, because we needed a cash flow replacement with doing our goals, moving backwards, knowing what we needed to actively live. And so we created that, which was awesome. We bought a bunch of triple nets, Starbucks, O'Reilly's, AutoZones, a bunch of things that basically pay us every month. Okay, so that's our income. Great, check. And we got this huge tax bill. And I was like, oh God, now what do we do, right? Because we didn't plan on this. And so then we got into multifamily, because the multifamily offers something called bonus depreciation. And in the US, particularly, you can use that against your passive income. Well, all of our income is now passive. So we bought a bunch of multifamily deals that then eradicated our tax bill, which was huge for us, right? And for our family, and a great learning opportunity.
Yes.
Again, paying for mentorship, paying for all kinds of money, smarter people than us that put us in this position. So it's not only just about where you want to be financially, but how to move yourself forward again with, all pieces of life professionally. So now we live 100% passively in terms of passive income. We'll talk about passive in a minute, but meaning the check comes in the bank every month and we don't really do a ton of work for that piece. The multifamily is a little bit less passive, but offers the bonus depreciation and the tax eradication for us. But what we want to do is help other people learn this. Like all this stuff, the only thing we wish we knew was all of this sooner. I feel like we always say, dang, if we knew this, 10 years ago, where would we be now? But that's part of learning, right? And we're okay with, we continue to be blessed with information. So we want to continue to bless others with information. And so really that's where we're at. Next phase of life, I'll be 50 in December. So that's a big milestone for us. I will have completed the continence with my children December 29th, and my 50th birthday is December 29th. So I feel accomplished, in that sense as well. But what we feel like for this next half of life, if we're blessed enough to live another 50 years, which I'm planning on, beginning with the end in mind, that we have 50 years to help others, right? And so generosity and abundance is what's fueling us moving forward. And so when you talk about what's next, I think a lot, right? I think a ton, but I think it's for other people now.
Love that. Do you know how old you're going to live?
Yeah, I'm going to be 99.
99?
Yep.
Why'd you choose that number?
Because I feel like I don't know. I don't know why it's 99, but my grandparents lived to like 93 and 94, and my grandma's still alive. My grandma's a little old Italian nonna who cooks pizza still for 19 people and calls them and says, pick up your, pizza and homemade ravioli. And she has huge gardens. And I have a very similar energy level and background as her. And so I feel like I'm going to still be doing that at 93 and 94. I think I'll probably settle down a little at 95, 96. She goes and visits the old people still at the old age home because they need, they need stuff. So I think I'm going to be the same. I don't know that I want to hit 100 because I feel like the apex for me of being a century, I feel like I want to accept that in the universe. I don't know. It's just something kind of weird.
Yeah, right on. I'm going to challenge anybody listening right now to choose a age because that end in mind is important. And when I chose, I have a pretty clear vision of me at 103 on stages, still boxing, and I'm going to 108. And I already know how I'm going to go out, and I'm going to laugh when it happens, and I'm just going to give a whole bunch of gratitude. But I will tell you, as far as the power of that end in mind, as I gained more and more clarity about that, and I was like, okay, no, 108, it is. Now, I'm not even halfway there yet. Like, let's go. Like, this is the beginning of this.
That half time left, right, needs to be different than the first half, right? For me, anyways. I don't know. I feel like there's got to be more clarity about where you're going at this point, right? We've lived half our life. We know what we like. I'm very strong-minded. I'm sure yourself. Like, you kind of know what you want and what you don't want, what you'll accept, what you won't. I'm not interested in all the other stuff. There's just a lot of things I've let go because it's not worth it. It's not a return on life, right? So the next half has to be a return on life.
Love it. Julie, how can listeners get a hold of you? How can we learn more from you?
Yeah, so my Facebook group's pretty active. I'm always in there on a daily. That's the Roy Real Estate and Equity Group one. I'm on Instagram as at the Julie Roy, I believe. And then, our email is just royholdings with an S LLC at Gmail. So they can contact me there if they have any specific questions, comments, concerns. But I just, if I can be of any value or help at all, we talked a lot about the positives, but there was a lot of struggle behind a lot of the success as well. And then, that's something that we didn't get into a lot today, but I do feel like that is something to be, there is something to be said about those lessons as well as we sort of moved up this food chain. And I feel like adversity for us, for sure, brought abundance. And so I feel like that's something too that you have to keep in mind because a lot of folks are, struggling, and a lot of folks are in situations where they want to give up, right? And maybe it's not working, and they've got everything on the line. And so we've been there. We've had those days. We had $150,000 biweekly payroll during COVID when they shut our schools down. So, I went into the basement and really had to do an internal check of what was happening. And, everything ended up working out. But again, there has to be that will, right? And the belief in yourself. And I think if I can just leave that with you, that, struggles are part of the journey, and the financial journey and the personal and professional journey is never without the struggles and lessons. That's what makes us, and it's okay, right? And sometimes backward steps bring more forward steps. And that, just to think about adversity as bringing abundance and adversity bringing courage, right? I think that's really what we've had to do. So
that's, really well said. And to kind of emphasize that, and then encourage, again, listeners to replay this conversation and then reach out to Julie, because what I'm hearing is, yes, we choose big goals. We start making steps. We're going to hit hard times. We're going to have challenges that are also going to form us and create the next opportunity. And keeping the mindset in check is an important piece. You've referenced mentors. You've talked a little bit about network and how critical this is, especially entrepreneurship. It can be lonely unless we seek out this mentorship.
Connect.
Who's already been there? Who's been through this? I can just at least say, I hear you. Yeah, it's hard. Keep going.
And even sometimes just those little whispers of people like, either going through similar things with you, or being able to say, hey, you know what? We did this and it helped. Maybe it'll help you. Or, hey, you know what? Maybe this wasn't working. What are some other options we can look at? And sometimes outside of yourself is where those answers happen. I feel like sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get really stuck in where our mindset is in the moment, or where we think the goal needs to go. And so sometimes someone just might say something and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be stuck or so super hyper delineated in this one area. Maybe I just open this up and all of a sudden, the trajectory changes, right? And I feel like, so being open to the universe too, the more open you are, the more things come to you. I do gratefulness, I don't want to say chance, but definitely some repetitive conversation with myself in the morning about being open and, bringing abundance to me so I can bring abundance to others. And I think there's a lot of self-belief, self-talk, all these pieces that, especially when you're in hard times, you really need to self-focus, on being open to receiving information that sometimes when you're in hard times, you want to shut down and not receive information. And that creates bigger problems for you,
Amazing. There is so much value in this conversation. We will include your links so folks can jump in your group, reach out to you in social, get your email. And I would definitely encourage a listener to reach out to Julie if this is resonating on levels. And thank you so much. It was awesome to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, Matt. And I know that you're an avid entrepreneur yourself, so hopefully it brought some value. But if we can be of any assistance, like I said, please reach out. And we just want to really thank you for the opportunity, to be able to be on this today and to hopefully provide that for y'all. So have an awesome day. Go get it. Keep the end in mind.
Get it.
Be positive and be focused.
Let's grow.
Let's grow.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.